Hey everyone, this week I'm coming to you from the forest, and I'm going to talk to you about The Office. Stay tuned. All right, so this week we are talking about Turathi Blue, which is Afnan's clone of Tygar from Bvlgari. I've had an interesting history with this fragrance. So a while back, I picked up the Discovery set from Athena Fragrances, which is that Egyptian clone house. They do really great work. There's a whole lot from them that I do want to get eventually. And among them was a fragrance called Eyes, which is their version of Tygar. And I smelled it and I was like, huh, so that's what Tygar smells like. Okay, all right, and I moved on. Not long after that, I went up to my closest fragrance outlet, or whatever it's called, the place that sells the Gent Sense fragrances, and because I wanted to smell them, and had to drive like an hour and a half. It was crazy. Got up there, they didn't really have many of them, which sucked, but they did have one. I don't remember the name of it, but I smelled it and I'm like, oh, it's kind of just a clone of Tygar. Okay, not bad, smelled good, but I was like, okay, so that's what that one's doing. Okay, fine. Again, didn't think much of it, went home, and then I just kind of kept going back to the Athena Discovery set, smelling the fragrances, and that one in particular, and I was like, man, every time I smelled it, I was like, okay, I get it. It doesn't seem like there's much going on here, but I kind of don't want to stop smelling it. I keep going back to it, I keep smelling it more and more. And I'd heard that this was a good clone of Tygar, so I decided to pick it up. Picked it up about a month ago at this point, and I am loving it. I mean, I was wearing it today. I often will just grab it and reach for it, and it's become one of those like kind of easy, dumb reaches for me. But I think there's something more interesting about this, which is I think the application. Oh man, it's so good. So, what is the fragrance? This to me is basically 3 notes. I know a lot of like houses are only putting out 3 notes in a lot of cases, and people hate that trend, and I think generally I agree because I like to have more information about what they're trying to achieve with the scent. But in this case, I actually think you can pretty much sum this up with 3 notes. For me, maybe 4. For me, it is grapefruit up top, then it's followed by ginger. That pretty much goes along with it up top, and then basically you're down to the ambroxan, musk, and maybe a little bit of vetiver there as well. So pretty simple fragrance. I don't think that this is an incredibly hard thing to clone because I don't think that there's a massive amount of complexity to it, but that doesn't stop it from being kind of this like growing addiction when you smell it. I do love this too, and when I first smelled it, I was like, I don't get the grapefruit at all. It just kind of has this really, it smelled professional to me, but I couldn't figure out why. And I think the best way that I can phrase this is that this smells like the boss you like. This doesn't smell like the boss you hate. This smells like the boss that when you get a whiff of it, you're like, oh man, that's a killer boss. And he smells really good, you know what I mean? So I think that this may be one of the ultimate office scents. I think it's pretty applicable across ages. I think you can wear this if you're younger. I think you're fine with this if you're older. To me, this is just a very clean, fresh, there is the grapefruit up top and the ginger, which make it kind of this like citrusy zing, but then the ambroxan and the vetiver down kind of ground it and provide this really interesting depth to it that even though it's simple, there's something here that kind of like, when I smell this, I think of the color silver for some reason. Not like gray hair or anything like that, but kind of clean. And when I say clean, you might think of like soapy or shower gel or something like that. I don't get any of that from here. Like this to me is like clean metal. And maybe that's the ambergris, the ambroxan molecule or whatever. But it's such a like, the first time you smell it, you might be a little nonplussed like I was. I'm slow to this one in particular. And I think that was because it was one that I had to smell over and over before I started to really kind of grow or have it grow on me. But this is just such a great office scent. I think if you're looking for something, and I'll do a series at some point here about my recommendations for office scents. I work from home now, but I have worked in the office a lot. I expect I'll go back at some point, and this would be chief among my kind of like daily signature things, partially because the composition, if you're looking at like the ginger and the grapefruit and the vetiver, those are all going to be very, I think, safe notes. It's not going to be something that's screaming across the room, though it is something that people will absolutely catch whiffs of. This is something I get wafts of all the time, but the nice thing about it is it's not something that really hangs in the air really thick like a gel. This is something that when you smell it, you get just like kind of a passing smell, and then it's gone, and you're like, oh wait, what was that? What was that? I really think that's a great thing in fragrance. I love when you catch whiffs of something and you're like, oh, I want more, but then it goes away. I think that's fun, and I think that fits here. It doesn't mean it's weak. I don't think it's weak. This lasts a really long time on my skin. I'd say probably 6 hours to be safe, but man, I think for me personally, this would create a great impression. If I smelled this on someone else, I would think it's really nice. Now granted, a lot of people don't like fragrances, so you're always gonna find people that don't like it, and your tastes are subjective, so you may not like this. But for me, when I smell this, I think, okay, that kind of portrays the kind of air that I want to convey in the office, which is mature, but also it smells new. It doesn't smell old. It smells clean. You know, it's kind of all those like great things that you want, and that may come across like it smells like boring fragrance. I don't think that's the case at all. That's kind of the thing, is like, this is about the most interesting you can get without it being over the top for an office. I think that's why I keep going back to an office, is I'm like, it's reserved, but it's not boring. It's like all these things that kind of make it, for me, like the perfect scent in the office. If you're looking for something that's kind of, I think, relatively safe, and I think sends a good message, this one's great. I really don't think that this is a bad fragrance, and I think the more that you smell it, the more it's gonna grow on you. I think it's also pretty evergreen, even though it's like the citruses and the ginger up top. I think this is a year-round fragrance. I think this does just great in the cold. It smells really nice. It's kind of refreshing. And in the summertime, I think I'm gonna wear it, obviously, since we're coming into summer, but I think it'll do just great, especially again, because of the ginger and the grapefruit. Grapefruit is a citrus, I think, that doesn't necessarily have the sort of feeling that it has to be spring or summer. And since this is a grapefruit forward fragrance, I think that actually makes quite a bit of a difference. So again, I'm slow on this one. I'm coming to it late. I smelled it and was kind of nonplussed for a while, but it's grown on me again over time. Have you guys smelled this? Is this the best clone of Tygar that you've smelled? I've never smelled the original, but I've smelled, I think, at least 3 or 4 clones of it at this point, and they all seem to kind of be doing the same thing. I don't think that this is a very hard DNA to copy, because I don't think it's like, again, I don't think it's crazy complex. It's just the things that you have here and the way they're put together is just really, really, really well done. So good on Afnan for this one. I had their bottle of Rare Carbon. I actually gave that one away because it just didn't work on my skin. I gave it lots of tries, just wasn't for me. I was wondering if it was the clone, and then I went and tried out ombre leather as well. Ombre leather just doesn't work on my skin. It just smells off, bitter, and not very pleasant for some reason. Tuscan leather, on the other hand, smells very nice. It smells sweet and great, so I'm not gonna fault Afnan for that. I think they probably cloned ombre leather pretty well with Rare Carbon, but I think this is a way better showing from the house from me. So I'll probably check out some more of their stuff. If you have other recommendations from Afnan, I'll check them out, but this one in particular is really cool. What are your thoughts on this? Have you guys smelled Turathi Blue or Tygar? How close is it if you have? And yeah, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Bye.